Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Naruto was blind but mastered sage arts. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The world for Naruto Uzumaki was not a tapestry of light and shadow, but a symphony of sensation. He had never known the brilliant orange of a sunset, or the deep green of the Konoha forests. The concept of color was an abstraction, a word people used to describe a quality he could only guess at. His world began and ended in the space he could touch, hear, smell, and most profoundly, feel. From the moment he was born, the darkness had been his constant companion. The elders who spoke of it in hushed, fearful tones claimed the nine-tailed fox's apocalyptic chakra, in its violent surge during the fourth Hokage's sealing, had scorched the delicate nerves connecting his eyes to his brain. They called it another scar left by the demon, a physical manifestation of his cursed existence. For Naruto, it was simply normal. His mornings began not with the sun's rays piercing his window, but with a subtle shift in the air temperature as dawn broke. He felt the warmth creep across the wooden floorboards of his small apartment, a silent, reliable clock. He knew the layout of his home not by memory of sight, but by a map of textures and sounds etched into his mind. 3 steps from his bed to the worn, smooth wood of his dresser, 7 more to the cool tile of the kitchenette. He could tell if a cup was full by the weight and the faint sloshing sound it made, if the rice was cooked by the fragrant steam that filled the air. Today was different. A knot of cold dread, a sensation like a coiled snake, sat low in his belly. It was the day of the genin graduation exams. He dressed in his usual orange jumpsuit, a color, he'd been told, as loud and vibrant as his personality. He didn't understand the comparison, but he loved the feel of the thick, durable fabric. It was comforting, a familiar second skin. He ran a hand over his forehead protector, his fingers tracing the smooth, cool metal plate and the etched leaf symbol. He hadn't earned it yet. It was a goal, a tangible promise of a future he so desperately craved. Leaving his apartment, the village of Konoha enveloped him. It was a chaotic, beautiful orchestra. The rhythmic thump-thump-thump of a blacksmith's hammer from the east, the high-pitched chatter of women at the market to his left, their voices a complex weave of gossip and bartering. The smell of grilling fish from Ichiraku's, a scent so warm and inviting it felt like a hug. He navigated it all with an uncanny grace, his head tilted slightly, his ears catching every nuance. His bare feet, clad only in simple sandals, felt the vibrations of the world through the packed earth and stone walkways. He could distinguish the heavy, plodding steps of a shinobi on patrol from the light, hurried steps of a child late for the academy. But alongside this symphony was a discordant note of silence. As he walked, the vibrant hum of conversation around him would often dip, the voices turning to sharp, pointed whispers. He couldn't see the glares, but he could feel them. It was a unique and chilling sensation. The chakra of the villagers, normally a warm, ambient thrum that filled the space around them, would curdle when he passed. It would become sharp, cold, and tight, like a plucked string about to snap. They feared him. The blind demon, they called him, his disability just another grotesque feature of the monster they believed he was. He learned early on to build a wall around his own feelings, to keep their coldness from seeping in. He felt a familiar warmth approaching before he heard the voice. Naruto! You're going to be late, Iruka-sensei. Naruto grinned, turning to face the source of the steady, reassuring chakra. Iruka's presence was like a calm, sun-warmed clearing in a forest of jagged stones. Iruka Umino was one of the few who looked past the whispers. He had long ago stopped being surprised by Naruto's abilities. He'd seen the boy, with his back turned, name every person who entered the classroom just by the sound of their footsteps. He'd witnessed Naruto dodge an errantly thrown eraser from across the room, reacting to the faint whistle of air long before anyone else even saw it move. Iruka suspected Naruto's world was far richer and more detailed than anyone gave him credit for. Are you ready for the exam? Iruka asked, his voice laced with a gentle concern that Naruto could feel in the soft pulse of his chakra. Of course. Believe it. Naruto declared, his voice louder than necessary, a shield against the knot of dread in his gut. The academy classroom was a cacophony. The excited, nervous energy of his classmates buzzed in the air, a tangible static. He found his seat, guided by the familiar scent of chalk dust and old wood. He felt Sasuke Uchiha's presence 2 rows over, a cold, focused point of energy, like a shard of ice, utterly self-contained. He felt Sakura Haruno's, a fluttering, anxious warmth directed entirely at Sasuke. The written portion was a trial. He couldn't read the questions. Iruka, as he always did, read them aloud for him, but the act marked him as different, drawing snickers from some of the other students. He didn't need to cheat by looking at another's paper. He simply closed his eyes, filtering out the noise, and listened. He focused on the subtle scratching of pencils on paper, the slight tensing in a student's chakra as they confidently wrote an answer versus the hesitant, wavering energy of someone who was guessing. He built a consensus of answers in his mind, a tapestry woven from the confidence of others. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Then came the practical exam. Shuriken Jutsu was a nightmare. He could hear the target, feel its presence as a dead space in the air, but the minute connection between his hand, the projectile, and the destination was a gap he could not bridge. His throws were wild, clattering uselessly against the wall. The laughter of his classmates was sharp and cruel. Finally, the ultimate test, the clone jutsu, Uzumaki, Naruto. He stepped into the center of the room. The silence was heavy, expectant. He could feel every pair of eyes on him, their collective chakra a crushing weight of skepticism. Perform the clone jutsu, Iruka said, his voice even. Naruto took a deep breath, molding his chakra. This was his biggest hurdle. A clone was a copy. To create a copy, you needed an original to base it on. His classmates could visualize themselves, projecting that image onto their chakra. Naruto had no such image. He had no concept of his own face, the color of his hair, the shape of his eyes. His sense of self was an internal feeling, a nexus of warmth and energy. He pushed his chakra out, trying to shape it into that feeling. The result was pathetic. A formless, pale lump of chakra plopped onto the floor with a wet-sounding splat before dissolving into mist. It wasn't even a sickly, pale version of himself. It was just nothing. A wave of derisive laughter washed over him. He felt Iruka's chakra flare with sympathy and disappointment. Mizuki-sensei's chakra, however, felt strange. It was a smooth, placid surface, but Naruto sensed something cold and calculating underneath. Failure, Mizuki declared, his voice dripping with false pity. The word hit Naruto like a physical blow. He stood there, trembling, the world of sound fading into a dull roar in his ears. He was alone, adrift in his personal darkness. Later that evening, Naruto sat on the swing outside the academy, letting the cool evening air wash over him. The sounds of celebration were distant. He could feel the bright, joyful flares of chakra from the families congratulating their graduating children. Each one was a tiny stab of pain. Naruto. He recognized Mizuki-sensei's approach. The footsteps were light, and the chakra was that same deceptive, smooth warmth. It's not fair, is it? Mizuki said, his voice a conspiratorial whisper. Iruka-sensei is too hard on you. He doesn't understand your unique situation. Naruto remained silent, but Mizuki's words were a balm on his wounded pride. I know a way you can pass, Mizuki continued, his chakra pulsing with a persuasive rhythm. A secret, second chance. There's a scroll hidden in the Hokage's residence. It contains powerful jutsu. If you can learn just one jutsu from it, and show it to me, I'll make sure you pass. It's a test of determination, you see? Desperation was a powerful motivator. The cold dread in Naruto's stomach was replaced by a frantic, reckless spark of hope. He couldn't see the manipulative gleam in Mizuki's eyes, but he felt the cold undercurrent in his chakra. He chose to ignore it. Infiltrating the Hokage tower was surprisingly easy. He moved in silence, a shadow in a world of shadows. His senses screamed at him, mapping out the patrol routes of the guards by the sound of their breathing and the rhythmic pulse of their chakra. He slipped past them like a ghost. He found the forbidden scroll in the Hokage's study. It was huge, the sheer size of it surprising him as his hands brushed against it. The air around it hummed with power. He couldn't read the intricate kanji on the casing, but he didn't need to. When his fingers touched the scroll itself, a jolt shot up his arm. It was unlike anything he had ever felt. The scroll was saturated with chakra, ancient and unimaginably potent. As he unrolled it, he didn't see symbols or words. He placed his palm flat against the parchment, and the jutsu within spoke to him in a language he could understand. It wasn't a visual or auditory experience. It was tactile, conceptual. He felt the intricate pathways of the shadow clone jutsu, the way the chakra needed to be split not into a mere illusion, but into dozens, hundreds of solid, tangible forms. It was a complex, beautiful, and powerful feeling, and his chakra resonated with it instantly. He didn't read how to do it, he absorbed it. He took the scroll to the clearing Mizuki had specified. As he practiced, he found that this jutsu was different. It didn't require a visual template. It required the user to pour their very essence, their life force, into each clone. For someone whose sense of self was entirely internal, it was a perfect fit. With a surge of effort, the world around him exploded. He couldn't see them, but he could feel them. A dozen perfect copies of himself, each with its own identical chakra signature, its own heartbeat, its own set of senses. For the first time, he was not alone in his darkness. He was surrounded by himself. It was a dizzying, exhilarating sensation. Naruto! I found you! Irika's panicked voice cut through his triumph. His sensei's chakra was a frantic storm of worry. What are you doing with the forbidden scroll? Mizuki tricked you. Before Naruto could process this, another presence entered the clearing. Mizuki. His chakra was no longer smooth. It was a jagged, hateful thing, radiating undisguised malice. Well, Mizuki sneered, his voice sharp. Looks like the demon brat found my little hideaway. Mizuki! So it was you! Irika yelled. Give me the scroll, Naruto, Mizuki commanded. You know why everyone in this village hates you. Why they look at you with such contempt. Naruto flinched. The cold whispers, the flinching chakra. It's because 12 years ago, the fourth Hokage didn't kill the nine-tailed fox, Mizuki spat, the words dripping with venom. He sealed it inside a newborn baby. That baby was you, Naruto. You are the nine-tailed demon fox. The words struck Naruto with the force of a physical impact. The world, his world of sound and sensation, tilted on its axis. He felt a deep, guttural thrumming in his gut, a familiar but terrifying presence he had always felt but never understood. It was a well of immense, hateful power. That was the Kyuubi. It was inside him. The villagers' fear, their hatred, it all made a terrible, crushing sense. His blindness, his curse, it was all connected. He felt his own chakra waver, threatening to be consumed by the roaring inferno within. Die, demon! Mizuki shrieked. Naruto didn't see the massive Fuma shuriken Mizuki hurled. He heard it. It was a terrifying, high-pitched whistle that sliced through the night air, a sound that promised death. Simultaneously he felt Mizuki's chakra flare, a concentrated spike of pure killing intent aimed not at him, but at Irika. The world seemed to slow to a crawl. In that elongated moment, his senses were screaming. He could trace the shuriken's trajectory by the way it disturbed the air. He could feel the murderous intent behind it like a physical force. He knew, with absolute certainty, it would hit Irika. And then, a new sensation. The warm, steady presence of Irika-sensei moved, his chakra flaring as he threw himself in front of Naruto. There was a sickening thud, a wet tearing sound, and Irika's chakra signature erupted in a blinding flash of pain. Naruto felt Irika's pain as if it were his own. It was a hot, searing agony that cut through his shock and confusion. Why? Naruto whispered, his voice trembling. Because. Irika grunted, the pain evident in his strained voice and the frantic, flickering pulse of his chakra. Because we're the same. After my parents died, no one paid me any attention. I acted out, just wanting someone to notice me. I know how it feels to be alone. It hurts. Tears streamed down Naruto's face, hot trails on his cool skin. In that moment, he felt a connection deeper than any he had ever known. Irika's pain, his loneliness, his acceptance, it was all there, a raw, open-hearted gift communicated through his wavering chakra. You're not a demon fox, Naruto, Irika choked out. You are Naruto Uzumaki, a member of the Hidden Leaf Village. Mizuki laughed, a harsh, grating sound. You're a fool, Irika. I'll finish you both off. He prepared to throw another shuriken, but something inside Naruto had snapped. The fear, the doubt, the loneliness, it was all burned away by a clean, white-hot rage. It wasn't the Kyuubi's blind fury. It was his anger. His will. He felt the knowledge from the scrolls surge through him. He brought his hands together, the familiar feeling of the cross-shaped seal now second nature. Multi-shadow clone jutsu, the clearing erupted. It wasn't a dozen clones this time. It was 100. 200. The air became thick with their presence. For Mizuki, a sighted person, it was a shocking visual. For his senses, it must have been a nightmare. 100 identical heartbeats pounding in unison. 100 identical chakra signatures flaring to life, flooding the area and blinding any sensory ninja. The sound of 100 sets of feet rustling leaves. 100 voices shouting in unison. What's wrong? The chorus of Naruto's taunted, their voices coming from every direction at once. If you're not going to come to us. The sensory overload was absolute. Mizuki couldn't pinpoint the original. He was a lone instrument in a deafening orchestra of Naruto. Then we're coming to you. The tidal wave of sound, motion, and energy crashed over Mizuki. Naruto didn't need to see the pummeling. He felt it. 100 fists impacting, the spikes of pain in Mizuki's flailing chakra signature, until it finally flickered and dimmed into unconsciousness. Silence returned to the clearing, broken only by Irika's pained breathing. The clones dispersed, their energy flowing back into him. He stood, panting, over Mizuki's fallen form. Naruto, come here, Irika said, his voice weak but clear. Naruto stumbled over to his teacher. Close your eyes, Irika instructed. Naruto gave a small, sad smile. They're always closed, sensei. He felt Irika's hand reach up and remove the goggles from his head. Then, he felt the cool, smooth metal of a different forehead protector being tied around his brow. It was Irika's. The knot was tied with a firmness, a certainty, that spoke volumes. Congratulations, Irika said, his chakra glowing with a warm, brilliant pride that was the most beautiful thing Naruto had ever felt. You graduate. Miles away, in the highest tower of the village, the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, stared into his crystal ball. He had seen it all. He had seen Naruto's desperation, Mizuki's betrayal, and Irika's sacrifice. But he had seen something more. He had watched as Naruto stood perfectly still, tracking the giant shuriken he could not possibly have seen. He had noted the way the boy's head was tilted, not towards the weapon, but as if listening to its path. He had seen the raw, instinctual way Naruto had unleashed a kinjutsu he had only known for an hour. The boy hadn't just overwhelmed Mizuki with numbers, he had overwhelmed his senses. Hiruzen leaned back in his chair, the smoke from his pipe curling towards the ceiling. Naruto's blindness, long considered his greatest tragedy and a mark of his curse, was perhaps the key to a potential no one had ever considered. He was forced to perceive the world on a deeper level, to feel the flow of chakra, the intent of others, the very vibrations of life itself. But that raw talent was untamed, dangerous. It needed a master, a guide who understood the world beyond the five senses. Someone who knew how to balance the forces of nature itself. Picking up a brush, he wrote a quick, coded message on a small scroll. There was only one person in the world who could teach a boy like Naruto how to truly see. He summoned a messenger hawk. Take this to Jiraiya, he commanded, his voice firm with a newfound purpose. Find him. Tell him it is time to come home. We have a student for him. The weight of the forehead protector was a miracle. It was a cool, solid band of pressure against Naruto's skin, a constant, tangible reminder that he had done it. He was a ninja. The whispers of the villagers hadn't vanished, but they seemed softer now, their cold chakra muted by the warm pride radiating from his own chest. For the first time, walking through the village felt less like navigating a hostile sea and more like walking on solid ground. He found his usual seat in the academy classroom, the air thick with a different kind of energy than the day before. The desperate, sharp anxiety of the exam had been replaced by the bubbly, effervescent excitement of new beginnings. The chakra signatures of his classmates felt brighter, more hopeful. All except one. 2 rows over, Sasuke Uchiha was a void. His chakra was a tightly controlled, chillingly focused singularity. Where others radiated emotion, Sasuke consumed it, drawing the light and energy from the room into his own personal black hole of ambition and vengeance. Naruto had always been acutely aware of him, an anchor of cold in a room of warmth. Then there was Sakura Haruno. Her chakra was a frantic, fluttering hummingbird, a whirlwind of nervous energy directed almost entirely at the void that was Sasuke. Today, it was brighter than usual, tinged with a rosy, hopeful hue that Naruto could almost taste. Iruka-sensei entered the room, his presence a familiar comfort. He began reading out the team assignments. Naruto leaned forward, his whole body a conduit for sound and sensation, waiting for his name. Team 7 will be Naruto Uzumaki. A surge of pure joy shot through him. Yes, Sakura Haruno. Naruto's grin widened. He felt Sakura's chakra signature spike, a complex mix of dismay and resignation. He chose to focus on the fact that they were a team, and Sasuke Uchiha. The room seemed to drop a few degrees. Naruto felt the coldness from Sasuke's direction intensify, a wave of pure, undiluted annoyance. Naruto's own excitement faltered, the warm glow in his chest dimming under the force of that icy displeasure. He didn't need to see the glare to feel it burning into him. Iruka-sensei. Why does a top student like me have to be on the same team as this loser? Naruto exclaimed, pointing vaguely in Sasuke's direction. It was a reflexive defense, his usual loud-mouthed strategy to cover the sting of rejection. Iruka sighed, a sound Naruto knew well. Naruto, we create the teams to balance strengths and weaknesses. Sasuke had the highest scores in the graduating class, and you had the lowest. This is how it is. The logic was sound, but it didn't lessen the feeling of being an anchor tied to a prodigy. The rest of the morning was a blur of waiting. Other Jonin instructors came and went, collecting their new teams. With each departure, the ambient energy in the room thinned, leaving Team 7 stewing in an increasingly awkward silence. Sakura fidgeted, her anxious energy a constant buzz. Sasuke was unnervingly still, a statue carved from ice and impatience. Naruto, for his part, tried to map the room with his ears, listening to the dust motes dance in the sunbeams he could feel but not see. Hours passed. He's late! Naruto finally burst out, the silence becoming unbearable. He grabbed a chalkboard eraser, the felt coarse under his fingers. A mischievous idea sparked in his mind. What are you doing, Naruto? You idiot! Sakura hissed, her voice a sharp whisper. Naruto could feel her chakra flare with alarm. You can't play a prank on a Jonin! Sasuke made a sound, a quiet tch of disgust. He's a fool. He'll just get us all in trouble. His chakra pulsed with contempt. How can a ninja fight what he can't see? He can't even aim a simple prank. The words, though quiet, were sharper than any kunai. They hit their mark, striking right at the heart of Naruto's deepest insecurity. He froze, the eraser clutched in his hand. Was that all he was to them? A blind liability? A dead weight? He shoved the eraser into the top of the sliding door anyway, a stubborn act of defiance. He would show them, and then, he felt it. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't a footstep or the slide of the door. It was a sudden, inexplicable shift in the very fabric of the room. The air pressure changed. A new chakra signature appeared from absolutely nowhere, coalescing into being in the hallway just outside. It was a lazy, powerful presence, like a great cat sleeping in the sun, seemingly placid, but with an immense, coiled strength just beneath the surface. It was on a completely different level from anyone Naruto had ever felt before. The door slid open. The eraser dropped. Naruto tracked its short, silent arc through the air, felt the soft thump as it landed on a head of hair. There was a pause. The new chakra signature didn't even flicker. My first impression of you all, a relaxed, baritone voice drawled, is that you're a bunch of idiots. The energy in the room curdled. Sakura's hummingbird flutter turned into a frantic panic. Sasuke's icy focus was pricked with a sliver of surprise. Naruto just stood there, his head tilted, trying to get a better read on this strange, powerful man. Meet me on the roof, the man said, and then his presence was gone as suddenly as it had arrived, leaving a faint scent of ozone and the outdoors in his wake. On the roof, the sun was warm on Naruto's face. He sat cross-legged, listening to the wind whistle past the building. Their new sensei finally began to speak. He was tall, Naruto guessed, from the angle of his voice. "Alright, let's start with some introductions," he said, his voice maddeningly casual. "Things you like, things you hate, dreams for the future, hobbies. You know. Why don't you go first, sensei?" Sakura asked, her voice artificially sweet. "Me? I'm Kakashi Hatake. Things I like and things I hate. I don't feel like telling you that. My dreams for the future, never really thought about it. As for my hobbies, I have lots of hobbies. Your turn, you on the right." Naruto felt Kakashi's attention shift to him. He straightened up. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like instant ramen in a cup, and I really like the ramen Irika-sensei gets me at Ichiraku's. I hate the 3 minutes you have to wait after you pour the water in. My hobby is eating and comparing different kinds of ramen, and my dream for the future," he declared, his voice ringing with a conviction that pushed back against the earlier doubt, "is to become the greatest Hokage. Then the whole village will have to stop disrespecting me and treat me like I'm somebody. Somebody important." He felt Kakashi's chakra pulse with something unreadable. It wasn't amusement, not exactly. It was interest. A flicker of genuine curiosity. Sakura went next, her introduction a flurry of giggles and shy glances in Sasuke's direction, her chakra a blooming pink of infatuation. Then it was Sasuke's turn. The temperature seemed to drop again. "My name is Sasuke Uchiha," he said, his voice low and cold as a winter stone. "I hate a lot of things, and I don't particularly like anything. What I have is not a dream, because I will make it a reality. I'm going to restore my clan and destroy a certain someone." The killing intent that radiated from him was palpable. It wasn't the wild, chaotic malice of Mizuki. It was a focused, honed, and terrifyingly patient hatred. It made the hairs on Naruto's arms stand up. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. "Good," Kakashi said, breaking the tension. "You're each unique and you have your own ideas. We'll have our first mission tomorrow." He paused. "It's a survival exercise." "A survival exercise?" Sakura's confusion was a tangible wave. "But we did those at the academy." "This isn't like your academy training," Kakashi said, a hint of steel entering his lazy tone. "This is a pass-or-fail test. And if you fail, you go back to the academy." He let that sink in. Out of the 27 graduates this year, only 9 will become genin. The rest will be weeded out. This is an all-or-nothing test with a 66% failure rate. Naruto felt a familiar cold dread return, coiling in his stomach. All his work, the forehead protector, the feeling of acceptance, it could all be stripped away. "Oh," Kakashi added, his voice deceptively light. "And I wouldn't eat breakfast tomorrow. You'll puke." With that ominous warning, he vanished again, his chakra signature dissolving into nothing. The next morning, Naruto stood in the designated training ground, his stomach rumbling. The air was cool and damp, thick with the smell of dew-covered grass and rich soil. He could hear the gurgle of a nearby stream and the chirping of early morning birds. He felt Sasuke and Sakura arrive, their chakra signatures tense with apprehension. Kakashi appeared hours later, the same sudden shift in reality marking his arrival. "Morning, everyone. Ready for your test?" He held up 2 small bells that jingled with a clear, bright tone. "Your task is simple," he explained. "You have until noon to take these bells from me. Those who don't have a bell by lunchtime get no lunch. You'll be tied to a post and watch while I eat mine." Naruto's stomach growled louder. "But sensei," Sakura protested, "there are 3 of us and only 2 bells." Kakashi's eye curved in what Naruto could only assume was a smile. "Exactly. At least one of you will be tied to a post. And that person will fail the test and go back to the academy." His chakra flared with a sudden, immense pressure. It was like the air had turned to lead. "You'll have to come at me with the intent to kill if you want to succeed. But you'll be in danger!" Sakura cried. "You couldn't even dodge that eraser," Naruto muttered, trying to sound braver than he felt. "In the real world, class clowns are usually the first to die," Kakashi said coolly. "They're marked as weak links and eliminated. When I say start, you can begin." The pressure intensified. Naruto felt a kunai pressed against his throat before he even heard Kakashi move. The Jonin's speed was terrifying. He was everywhere and nowhere at once. "Don't be in such a hurry," Kakashi whispered from right behind him. "I haven't said start yet." He vanished again. Naruto stood trembling, the phantom sensation of cold steel on his neck. This was real. Ready. Start. In a flash, Sasuke and Sakura were gone, their chakra signatures scattering as they leaped into the trees. Naruto, momentarily frozen by the display of speed, was left alone in the clearing. He could hear the faint jingle of the bells as Kakashi walked, a casual, taunting sound. "You know, compared to the other two, you're a little weird." Kakashi's voice drifted from somewhere to his left. Naruto charged, his fists clenched. "The only thing weird here is your haircut." He ran towards the sound, but it was like chasing the wind. The jingling was always just out of reach. He threw a punch at where he thought Kakashi was, only to hit empty air. A ninja must be able to read the situation. Kakashi's voice now came from behind him. "Fighting with your eyes closed won't get you very far, Naruto." The taunt hit home. Frustration boiled inside him. He could hear Sasuke engaging Kakashi in the trees, the sharp clang of metal on metal, the whistle of thrown shuriken cutting through the air, the low rumble of a jutsu. It was a blur of sound, too fast and chaotic for him to get a clear lock on. Then he felt Sakura's chakra spike in a scream of pure terror, followed by a strange, erratic fluctuation. Genjutsu. She was out of the fight. He was losing. They were all losing. Sasuke's strategy was failing, Sakura was trapped in an illusion, and he was just a blind kid stumbling around in the dark. He had to do something different. He had to stop trying to be like them. Naruto disengaged, retreating to the edge of the clearing. He sat down, crossing his legs. He ignored the taunting jingle of the bells and the sounds of Sasuke's increasingly desperate battle. He closed his eyes, a meaningless gesture to anyone else, but for him, a profound act of turning his focus inward. He took a deep breath, letting the scent of the forest fill his lungs. He filtered out the noise. The birds, the stream, Sasuke's frustrated shouts. He pushed his awareness outward, not with his ears, but with his chakra, with his very being. He felt the world around him come into focus in a new, more intimate way. He felt the deep, slow thrum of the earth beneath him. He felt the life energy of the ancient trees, their roots drinking from the soil. He could sense the delicate, fluttering chakra of a butterfly as it landed on a nearby leaf, the collective hum of an ant colony marching a dozen yards away. The entire training ground was a living, breathing entity, a web of interconnected life, all humming with a gentle, ambient energy. Natural energy, and in that perfectly balanced web, there was a flaw. It was a subtle distortion, a place where the natural harmony was pushed aside, displaced by a foreign presence. It wasn't just Kakashi's chakra signature, which he could already feel. It was something more. It was a hole, a void in the natural world's energy field, created by a being who did not belong to the forest's gentle rhythm. It was a negative space, as clear to his senses as a silhouette against the sun. Kakashi was no longer a moving sound. He was a fixed point of emptiness in a world of vibrant life. Naruto's head snapped up. His face was turned not towards the sounds of battle, but towards a silent, unassuming patch of shadow beneath a large oak tree. "Sasuke!" Naruto yelled, his voice cutting through the clearing. "Stop! He's not where you think he is." The sounds of Sasuke's attack ceased. "What are you talking about, loser? I have him pinned down." "No, you don't! That's a clone!" Naruto shouted, concentrating on the void. "The real one is 30 meters to your left. Behind the big oak with the crooked branch, 5 meters up, hiding in the leaves." There was a moment of silence. Naruto could feel Sasuke's chakra pulsing with disbelief and skepticism. Then, with a surge of frustrated energy, Sasuke moved. Naruto heard the whisper of air as Sasuke launched himself in the direction he'd indicated. There was a surprised grunt, the rustle of leaves, and the sharp clang of kunai. "Well now," Kakashi's voice, tinged with genuine surprise, echoed from the exact spot Naruto had named. "That's unexpected." Naruto felt a flicker of triumph. He was seeing. Not with his eyes, but with the world itself. He was no longer blind. He was the entire forest. "Sasuke! Listen to me!" Naruto scrambled to his feet. I can find him. You have to be my fists. He could feel Sasuke hesitate. The Uchiha's pride was a tangible, bitter thing. Relying on the dead last? On the blind kid he dismissed just hours ago? But the alternative was failure. Fine, Sasuke bit out, his voice tight. Tell me where. A new dynamic was born. He's dropping to the ground. Naruto yelled, tracking the void's swift movement. Moving towards the river. He's going to use the water. Sasuke, guided by Naruto's calls, became a perfect weapon. He moved with blinding speed, his attacks no longer wasted on feints and clones. He was always one step ahead, intercepting Kakashi's movements before they were even completed. The fight became a deadly dance, choreographed by a boy who couldn't see a thing. Sakura! Wake up! Naruto screamed, hoping his voice would pierce her genjutsu. He felt her chakra stir, the illusion weakening. We need you! Create a diversion on the east side. Her chakra flared, confused but obedient. A badly aimed volley of kunai clattered through the trees, forcing Kakashi to adjust his position. It was all the opening they needed. Now, Sasuke! Naruto roared. Sasuke unleashed his fireball jutsu, a massive wave of heat and roaring sound that Naruto felt wash over the clearing. Kakashi, forced to evade, leaped into the air. He's above you! Naruto shouted. But Naruto was already moving. He predicted the dodge, felt the path of least resistance Kakashi would take. He ran not to where Kakashi was, but to where he was going to be. He leaped, his body a missile aimed by an invisible force, and crashed directly into Kakashi in midair. His hands fumbled, grasping at the Jonin's vest, his fingers brushing against the cold, smooth metal of a bell. Before he could secure his grip, the noon bell chimed from the village, its distant peal signaling the end of the test. They landed in a heap on the ground, Naruto panting, Sasuke exhausted, and Sakura looking bewildered. They hadn't gotten the bells. They had failed. Kakashi stood up, brushing himself off. He looked down at the three of them, and for the first time, Naruto felt no laziness or condescension in his chakra. He felt a deep, thoughtful seriousness. None of you got a bell, Kakashi stated. So you all fail. The words hung in the air. Naruto felt Sakura's chakra wilt with despair. Sasuke's fists clenched, his energy turning sharp with rage. But, Kakashi continued, his gaze sweeping over them. You didn't abandon your comrades. Sasuke, you listened to Naruto. Sakura, you provided a distraction when asked. And Naruto, he paused, his focus settling entirely on the blind boy. You became the eyes of your team. You found a way to turn your greatest weakness into your team's greatest strength. He walked over to the memorial stone, his footsteps heavy. In the ninja world, those who break the rules are trash. That's true. But those who abandon their friends are worse than trash. He turned back to them, and his chakra softened, filled with something that felt like approval. The test was never about the bells. It was about seeing if three mismatched individuals could overcome their own selfishness and function as a team. His gaze lingered on Naruto. Team 7. You pass. A wave of relief so powerful it was dizzying washed over Naruto. He felt Sakura's joy and Sasuke's quiet, grudging acceptance. They had done it. Together. Sasuke looked at Naruto, and for the first time, the cold disdain in his chakra was gone. It was replaced by a complex, swirling mix of confusion, frustration, and a sliver of something that felt almost like respect. He still saw a rival, but he no longer saw a liability. He saw a weapon he didn't understand. That evening, as the sun set, a phenomenon Naruto could only feel as a gradual cooling of the world, he was summoned by the third Hokage. He stood in the familiar office, the air smelling of old paper and pipe smoke. Hiruzen's chakra was ancient, warm, and as vast as a calm sea. But there was another presence in the room. It was immense. If Hiruzen was a calm sea, this new person was the sun. His chakra was a blazing, sprawling, overwhelmingly powerful force of nature. It was wild and untamed, full of boisterous energy, raw power, and a deep, rumbling wisdom. It was so potent it made the air in the room feel thick and heavy. Naruto had never felt anything like it. Naruto, Hiruzen said, his voice gentle. "There is someone I'd like you to meet. This is one of the 3 legendary Sannin. Master Jiraiya." "So this is the kid," a deep, booming voice said. Naruto felt the man, Jiraiya, walk towards him. He was huge, his footsteps heavy on the wooden floor. He smelled of sake, ink, and the open road. He stopped directly in front of Naruto, his massive chakra signature washing over him like a physical heat wave. Naruto expected a question, a test, maybe even a joke. Instead, he heard the soft rustle of cloth as the great man knelt, bringing himself down to Naruto's level. The blazing sun of his chakra was now right in front of him, warm and intense. Then, Jiraiya did something unexpected. He took a deep breath, and Naruto felt the man's powerful chakra signature change. He was concentrating, turning his focus inward. "Lord Hokage told me about your unique perspective," Jiraiya said, his voice no longer booming, but quiet, serious, and filled with a profound curiosity. "He thinks I'm the only one who can teach you." Naruto felt a subtle shift in the man's energy. Jiraiya had closed his eyes. He had willingly stepped into Naruto's world of darkness, a gesture of profound empathy and understanding. He wasn't looking at the blind boy. He was trying to perceive the world with him. The legendary Sannin, the Toad Sage, one of the most powerful ninja in the world, spoke to him not as a child or a student, but as an equal, a fellow seeker of a different kind of truth. "Tell me what you see, kid." The weeks following the formation of Team 7 were a tedious, soul-crushing cycle of monotony. They caught the infamous Tora, the daimyo's wife's cat, no less than 5 times. Naruto didn't need to see the demonic feline to track it. He simply followed the trail of its frantic, panicked heartbeat and the distinct, aristocratic scent of its overly expensive food. They weeded gardens, a task Naruto accomplished by feeling the textural difference between the rough, aggressive roots of the weeds and the delicate, fragrant stems of the herbs. They walked dogs, picked up trash, and repainted fences. Each D-rank mission was a new flavor of boring, a gray, tasteless paste in the vibrant meal he imagined a ninja's life to be. His new team dynamic was a work in progress. Sakura, bless her, tried her best. She would describe things to him in painstaking detail. The exact shade of the sky, the shape of a cloud, the pattern on a client's kimono. He appreciated the effort, but the words were hollow, like describing a sound to someone who was deaf. It was the feeling behind her words, the warm, earnest pulse of her chakra as she tried to connect with him, that he understood and cherished. Sasuke was a different story. The icy wall of his disdain had cracked during the bell test, but it had been replaced by something arguably more unsettling, a quiet, intense observation. Naruto could often feel Sasuke's chakra focused on him, a probing, analytical pressure. It wasn't hostile anymore, but it wasn't friendly either. It was the energy of a master strategist studying a strange new weapon, trying to understand its mechanics, its limitations, its potential. The reliance that had been forged in the heat of the test had settled into a silent, unspoken pact. Sasuke would be the team's eyes and fists. Naruto would be its ears and its compass. The breaking point came during a particularly grueling afternoon spent fishing debris out of a river. "No way!" Naruto roared, slamming a dripping, sludge-covered log onto the riverbank. "No more! I'm a ninja, not a garbage man. I want a real mission, something with danger and excitement, where I can show everyone what I'm made of." "Believe it!" He expected Irika, who was supervising, to sigh and lecture him. He was surprised to feel the ancient, powerful presence of the third Hokage materialize behind them, his chakra as warm and familiar as the sun. "You want a real mission, Naruto?" Hiruzen's voice was laced with amusement. "Very well. Team 7, you are assigned a C-rank escort mission." A C-rank. It wasn't an assassination or a war, but it was a leap into the world of real shinobi work. A thrill, sharp and electric, shot through Naruto. Their client was a bridge builder named Tazuna. Naruto mapped him out with his senses long before the man stumbled into the Hokage's office. He walked with a slight, unsteady gait, and the air around him was thick with the potent, sour scent of cheap sake. His chakra was a strange contradiction. On the surface, it was loud and blustering, a facade of bravado. But underneath, Naruto felt a deep, trembling undercurrent of fear, a constant, low-frequency hum of terror. This man was hiding something. "You're sending me with these brats?" Tazuna slurred, his voice a gravelly rumble. "They're a joke. Especially the little one with the stupid grin and, are his eyes closed?" "I'm not little!" Naruto shot back, the insult bouncing off his new confidence. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, a future Hokage. And I'm blind, old man, not stupid." The journey out of Konoha was an experience of profound transition. The familiar symphony of the village, the clang of the blacksmith, the chatter of the market, the hum of thousands of lives, slowly faded behind them. It was replaced by the subtler, more organic music of the wilderness. The feel of the packed earth of the village roads gave way to the soft, yielding dirt of the path. The scent of ramen and steel was replaced by the rich aroma of pine, damp earth, and decaying leaves. Naruto walked with his head held high, his senses cast out like a net, charting the world around him. He could hear a woodpecker drumming against a tree 100 yards away, feel the subtle vibrations of a deer stepping through the underbrush, and sense the life force of every tree, every insect, every blade of grass. Kakashi led the way, his chakra a lazy, watchful presence. Sakura walked beside Tazuna, her energy a nervous shield around their client. Sasuke flanked them, a silent shadow, his focus sharp and unwavering. Naruto took the rear, his role as the team's living radar already tacitly accepted. For hours, the world was peaceful. The sun was a warm weight on his shoulders, the wind a cool caress. Then, he felt it. It was a dissonance, a note played perfectly out of key. The day was hot and dry, there had been no rain for at least a week. Yet up ahead on the path, he felt a patch of cold, damp energy. A puddle. His ears picked up no sound of dripping water, his nose detected no scent of recent rainfall. It was simply there. A thing that shouldn't be, and inside it, he felt something else. 2 chakra signatures, coiled and still as sleeping vipers. They were submerged, hidden, radiating a patient, predatory intent that made the skin on his arms crawl. "Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said, his voice low and urgent. "Stop." Kakashi paused, turning his head slightly. "What is it, Naruto?" "The puddle," Naruto said, pointing ahead. "There are 2 people in it." Sasuke's chakra flared with skepticism. "Don't be an idiot. It's just a puddle." Sakura was more diplomatic. "Naruto, there's nothing there. I'm looking right at it." But Kakashi was silent. Naruto could feel the Jonin's focus sharpen, his lazy chakra signature tightening into a coil of lethal readiness. He trusted Naruto's senses. The bell test had taught him that much. "Well now," Kakashi said, his voice casual but his energy anything but. "Looks like our C-rank mission just got a little more interesting." The world exploded. Naruto didn't see the 2 ninja erupt from the water. He felt the sudden, violent displacement of energy. He heard the hiss of water turning to steam and the sharp, metallic whir of a chain slicing through the air. The 2 predatory chakra signatures uncoiled, lashing out with a singular, murderous purpose aimed directly at Kakashi. There was a wet, tearing sound, a sickening shredding of flesh and cloth. Sakura screamed. Tazuna's fear chakra erupted into a full-blown panic. "One down," a cold voice hissed. But Naruto knew better. The chakra signature he had identified as Kakashi hadn't vanished. It had flickered, yes, but it was still there, now hiding in the trees above them. A substitution jutsu. The 2 attackers, the demon brothers, turned their attention to the rest of them. Naruto could feel their combined killing intent wash over him like a wave of ice water. "Sasuke!" Naruto barked, falling into the rhythm they'd discovered during the bell test. 2 of them. "One is coming for Tazuna, from your right. The other is circling behind me." Sasuke didn't hesitate. He moved like a bolt of lightning, a shuriken and kunai flashing in his hands. Naruto heard the sharp, satisfying clang of steel meeting the armored gauntlet of one of the attackers. He spun, guided by the sound and the feel of the second ninja's chakra, and drove a powerful kick into the space he knew the man would occupy. His foot connected solidly with the chest plate. The fight was short and brutal. Sasuke, guided by Naruto's flawless sensory information, fought with a precision and lethality that was terrifying. He was no longer wasting movements on feints or guesses. Every strike was calculated, every parry perfect. Naruto acted as his extension, covering his blind spots, calling out attack patterns before they could even form. Sakura, her initial panic replaced by a steely resolve, stood her ground in front of Tazuna, kunai held ready, a final line of defense. In moments, it was over. Kakashi dropped from the trees, his presence reappearing with casual ease, and subdued the two Chunin. The praise in his chakra was faint but genuine. Sasuke was breathing heavily, his own energy a mix of adrenaline and a new, grudging respect for the blind teammate who had just saved his life. It seems our bridge builder has been less than honest, Kakashi said, his voice cold as he looked at Tazuna. These are ninja from the village hidden in the mist. This is no C-rank mission. We're hunting bigger prey. We're being hunted by Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist. The name hung in the air, a promise of death. Tazuna confessed his story about Gato, the corrupt shipping magnate, and the hope the bridge represented for his impoverished land. Despite the danger, they agreed to continue the mission. The boat ride to the land of waves was a somber affair, the chugging of the small engine and the gentle lapping of water against the hull the only sounds. Naruto could smell the salt in the air, feel the cool, damp spray on his face. The world was growing colder, grayer. And then, the mist rolled in. For Sakura and Sasuke, it was like the world had been erased. A thick, impenetrable white wall descended, swallowing sight and muffling sound. Panic began to set in, their chakra signatures flickering with anxiety. For Naruto, his world barely changed. The mist was a physical sensation, a cold, wet blanket that pressed in on him from all sides. It muffled the sounds of the boat and the water, yes, but his primary sense, his connection to the world of chakra and natural energy, was completely unaffected. The fear his teammates felt was a distraction, but the world itself was still an open book to him. 8 points. A voice, cold and dispassionate, cut through the fog. It came from every direction at once. Larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. Which one should I choose as my first target? Naruto felt it before anyone else. An immense chakra signature, coalescing on the surface of the water nearby. It was vast, cold as the bottom of the ocean, and honed to a razor's edge. It was saturated with the metallic tang of old blood and a killing intent so profound it felt like a physical weight on his chest. Zabuza Momochi, Kakashi said, his own chakra flaring to meet the challenge. The battle that followed was a symphony of chaos conducted in a sensory deprivation chamber. Naruto couldn't see the massive executioner's blade, but he could hear the terrifying whoosh as it cleaved the air. He couldn't see the water clones, but he could feel their individual chakra signatures peel off from the original, each one a cold, hostile presence. When Kakashi was caught in the water prison jutsu, the oppressive weight of Zabuza's chakra seemed to crush all hope. Sakura froze, her fear a paralytic. Sasuke, for all his skill, was fighting blind, his Sharingan useless in the thick fog. Listen to me. Naruto's voice cut through their panic, sharp and commanding. He closed his eyes, a purely symbolic gesture, and focused. He was the eye of the storm, the one calm point in the swirling chaos. Forget your eyes. They're useless here. Just listen. He became their director. Sasuke. Water clone, 5 meters, your left. It's forming a hand seal. Sakura, get down. Zabuza's launching a kunai volley from the tree line. He guided them through the maelstrom. Zabuza, one of the legendary 7 swordsmen, found himself in an utterly baffling situation. His greatest asset, the hidden misjutsu that allowed him to kill silently and without warning, was being rendered impotent. Every move he made, every clone he created, was called out by a blind child with uncanny precision. The boy wasn't just guessing, he was tracking him in real time, a living sonar system that the mist could not fool. The demon of the mist was being robbed of his demonic advantage. We have to free Kakashi-sensei. Naruto yelled, formulating a plan on the fly. Sasuke, I need you to use that jutsu, the big one. Sakura, create a distraction. I'll draw his attention. He activated his shadow clone jutsu, sending a dozen copies charging blindly into the mist. It was a chaotic mess, but it worked. Zabuza's attention was split. Sasuke, seizing the moment, unleashed a massive fireball, the roaring wave of heat and sound temporarily burning away a patch of the fog. In that brief window, Naruto felt Zabuza's real body move to dodge. He threw a Fuma Shuriken, a weapon he couldn't aim by sight, but could hurl with surprising accuracy by locking onto Zabuza's chakra. It was enough. Zabuza was forced to release the prison, and Kakashi was free. The tide of the battle had turned. Just as Kakashi was about to deliver a final blow, Naruto felt a new presence. It was a small, incredibly fast chakra signature. 2 Saban needles, moving faster than sound, whistled through the air. He felt them strike Zabuza's neck, not with a killing force, but with a precise, targeted burst of chakra. Then, he felt Zabuza's massive, cold chakra signature flicker violently and then dim, sinking into a state so close to death it was almost indistinguishable. A hunter Nin from the mist appeared, a masked figure who spoke of their duty to eliminate rogue ninja. Naruto didn't need to see the mask or the uniform. He focused on the hunter Nin's chakra, and what he felt sent a shiver down his spine. It was powerful, yes, and controlled with an icy precision, but beneath the surface, it was fractured. It felt sad. It was a chakra signature that hummed with a profound, bone-deep sorrow, a melody of grief playing under the stoic silence. It was the saddest thing he had ever felt. In the days that followed, while Kakashi recovered from chakra exhaustion, Team 7 trained. Sasuke and Sakura practiced tree walking. Naruto, who had mastered the technique instinctively during his first attempt, pushed his other senses to their limits. He would sit in the forest for hours, trying to extend the range of his sensory sight, to feel the life force of individual leaves on the highest branches, to distinguish the chakra of a squirrel from that of a bird. It was during one of these sessions that he felt the familiar, sad chakra signature again. It was nearby, in a clearing. He approached cautiously, his feet silent on the soft moss. He found the person gathering herbs. He couldn't see them, of course, but he could build a picture from his other senses. They were small and slight. Their movements were graceful and silent. They smelled of mountain flowers and clean, cold air. "What are you doing out here?" Naruto asked, his voice gentle. The person startled, their chakra flaring for a moment before settling back into its sorrowful hum. "I'm gathering herbs for someone who is precious to me," a soft, melodic voice replied. Naruto moved closer, settling on the ground nearby. He didn't try to get a better look. He just listened to the person's presence. He felt the immense power they held in check, a winter storm contained within a fragile glass bottle. But it was the sadness that captivated him, that drew him in. It was a living thing, a wound in their soul that bled a constant, quiet grief. "You're not from around here," Naruto stated, not as a question, but as an observation. "No," the person replied. "I am from a land far from here, a land of ice and snow." They spoke for a while. The person, who Naruto learned was named Haku, spoke of the importance of having someone to protect, a purpose that gives life meaning. With every word, Naruto felt the deep, unwavering loyalty that burned at the core of Haku's being, a loyalty directed at the cold, murderous chakra of Zabuza. He understood. He, who had been alone his whole life, who craved acknowledgement more than anything, could feel the desperation in Haku. The desperation to be needed, to be someone's tool, because being a tool was better than being nothing at all. "It's strange," Naruto said quietly, tilting his head as he focused on the core of Haku's chakra. "You speak so calmly, but you feel like you're crying." He paused, trying to find the right words for the sensation. "It's in your chakra. It sounds like you're crying, even when you're not making a sound." The air went still. Haku's graceful movements ceased. Naruto felt the person's chakra waver, the icy control breaking for just a moment, revealing the raw, aching wound beneath. It wasn't shock or anger that he felt from Haku. It was a profound, soul-shaking resonance. For the first time, someone had seen past the mask, past the jutsu, past the face, and had perceived the truth of their heart. "Perhaps I am," Haku whispered, their voice thick with an emotion Naruto could now identify as gratitude. Then, as quickly as they appeared, they were gone, their sad chakra signature dissolving into the wind. The final confrontation took place on the half-finished Great Naruto Bridge. When Zabuza and Haku appeared, Naruto wasn't surprised. He felt the familiar, sorrowful chakra signature next to the demonic swordsman, and knew immediately. So it was you, Naruto said, his voice quiet, directed at Haku. I should have known. The battle was fierce. Sasuke, his Sharingan now fully active, was a match for Haku's incredible speed. But Haku's secret art, the demonic mirroring ice crystals, was a perfect trap. Naruto couldn't see the mirrors, but he could feel them. It was a cage of pure chakra, a dome of cold, sad energy that trapped Sasuke inside. Without hesitation, Naruto charged in. He was immediately plunged into a blizzard. Needles of ice rained down from all directions. For Sasuke, it was a visual nightmare. For Naruto, it was a sensory one. The rapid-fire, pinprick spikes of Haku's chakra came from everywhere at once, a disorienting, overwhelming storm that made it impossible to pinpoint his location. They were being torn apart. And then, the unthinkable happened. To protect Naruto from a seemingly fatal volley, Sasuke threw himself in the way. Naruto felt it with a clarity that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He felt the warm, intense, prideful chakra of Sasuke Uchiha, that familiar point of cold that had become a steady, reliable presence, flare brightly for one defiant second. Then, it was violently disrupted, shredded by a dozen points of icy energy. It flickered, wavered like a candle flame in a hurricane, and then, with a final, heartbreaking shudder, it was snuffed out. The world went silent. The hole left by Sasuke's absence was a physical void, a vacuum that sucked all warmth and sound from Naruto's world. His friend was gone. Not injured, not unconscious. His life force, the unique signature of his soul, had been extinguished. A low growl rumbled in Naruto's chest. The familiar, hateful presence deep within him stirred. But this time, Naruto didn't fight it. He welcomed it. The grief was too vast, the emptiness too absolute. He needed something to fill it. He needed rage. His senses, his connection to the natural world, were burned away by a blinding, deafening surge of crimson heat. The world of echoes and sensation vanished, plunging him back into the true, absolute darkness he was born into. But this darkness was not empty. It was filled with a predatory, unrestrained fury. The Kyuubi's power erupted, not as a tool, but as a replacement for his shattered soul. He couldn't feel the world anymore. He could only feel the desire to destroy the one who had taken his friend from him. He moved, a blur of orange and red, his power overwhelming Haku's jutsu. He shattered the ice mirrors with a single, chakra-infused punch. He hunted Haku not with his senses, but with a pure, feral instinct, and when he caught him, he struck with a force meant to obliterate. Just as his clawed hand was about to connect, he felt Haku's chakra signature flash. It moved with impossible speed, leaving his grasp. It reappeared across the bridge, placing itself directly in the path of a blindingly bright, screamingly powerful concentration of lightning-natured chakra, Kakashi's Raikiri, meant for Zabuza. Naruto felt Haku's chakra, that beautiful, sad, fractured crystal, flare into a supernova of loyalty and love. And then, it was gone. Utterly and completely extinguished. Another void, another friend, another light snuffed out in his world. The rage receded, leaving him gasping, the grief doubling in its intensity. He stood over Zabuza, who looked down on Haku's body with a cold indifference. He was just a tool, Zabuza grunted. A tool? Naruto's voice was raw with pain. You're wrong. I couldn't see him. I never saw his face. But I felt him. I felt how much he cared for you. It was the only thing holding his broken heart together. He lived for you. He died for you. And for you to say he was nothing, that's the cruelest thing in the world. His words, born from a world of pure sensation and emotion, struck Zabuza harder than any jutsu. The demon wept. The return journey to Konoha was quiet. Sasuke was alive, merely in a death-like state induced by the Saban needles. His chakra was faint, but it was there, a flickering ember that was slowly regaining its strength. The relief was a balm on Naruto's raw nerves. They were no longer just a team. They were comrades, forged in the fires of a real battle. They had faced death together, and the bonds between them were now tempered steel. Back in the village, Naruto was summoned again. This time, it wasn't the Hokage who was waiting for him, but Jiraiya. The Sannin was leaning against the wall of a training ground, his arms crossed, his immense chakra a familiar, blazing sun. He had been observing, Naruto realized. You did good, kid, Jiraiya said, his voice lacking its usual boisterousness. But what you did in that fight, you were reckless. You were running blind. I'm always running blind, Naruto retorted, a hint of bitterness in his tone. No, Jiraiya said, pushing off the wall and walking towards him. You're not. I've been watching you. On that bridge in the mist, you weren't just using your ears. You weren't just sensing chakra. You were feeling the world's lifeblood. It's called natural energy. Naruto listened, captivated. It's the energy that flows through the earth, the trees, the very air you breathe, Jiraiya continued, his voice taking on the weight of a true teacher. It connects all living things. You have a raw, untrained talent for sensing it. It's why Zabuza's mist couldn't fool you. You weren't looking for him in the fog. You were feeling his disruption of the natural order. Jiraiya stopped in front of him, placing a heavy hand on his shoulder. The warmth of his chakra flowed into Naruto, steady and powerful. But what you're doing now is like trying to listen to a symphony through a cracked stone wall. You only hear the loudest notes, the most violent disruptions. It's time you learn how to do it properly. It's time you learn how to be still and let the world speak to you. Jiraiya grinned, a wide, confident expression that Naruto could feel in the bright, optimistic flare of his chakra. I'm going to teach you, kid. I'm going to teach you how to gather that natural energy into your own body. I'm going to teach you sage arts. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper filled with promise. I'm going to teach you how to use the world's own energy to truly see. The air in the academy's largest classroom was thick and suffocating. To Naruto, it was a discordant mess of sensation. The sheer number of genin packed into the room created a low, oppressive hum of chakra, 100 different signatures rubbing against each other like sandpaper. He could distinguish the sharp, abrasive chakra of the sand siblings, one a whirlwind of unstable, bloodthirsty power contained in a gourd, another a sharp gust of wind, and the third a cool, calculating presence. He could feel the unsettling, dissonant chakra of the sound ninja, energy signatures that felt subtly wrong, like a melody played with missing notes. The room smelled of sweat, steel, and 100 different brands of anxiety. It was a far cry from the clean, open air of the training grounds. He stood beside Sakura and Sasuke, a small island of familiarity in a sea of hostile unknowns. Sasuke was a pillar of ice, his chakra tightly coiled, radiating a palpable do-not-touch warning. Sakura was a nervous hummingbird, her energy flitting between awe at the number of competitors and worry for their chances. Naruto himself was a tightly wound spring of excitement. This was it. The Chunin exams. The next big step. The proctor who entered was a monster made of scars and silence. Naruto didn't need to see the man's face to know he was dangerous. His chakra was a web of old, healed-over wounds, each one a testament to battles fought and tortures endured. It was a quiet, deeply intimidating presence, a still lake with unfathomable depths of pain and willpower. This was Ibiki Marino. All right, you wannabe shinobi degenerates. Ibiki's voice was a low growl that seemed to vibrate in Naruto's bones. Listen up. There will be no fighting amongst candidates without the permission of a proctor. Anyone who even thinks of messing with a proctor will be disqualified immediately. Got it? The rules for the first test were laid out, a written exam. A collective groan went through the room. A wave of disappointment Naruto could feel in the dip of the room's energy. Naruto's own heart sank. His greatest, most fundamental weakness, laid bare for all to see. He sat at his assigned desk, the smooth, cool wood under his palms. The test papers were distributed, the rustling of the sheets a dry, mocking sound. He could smell the faint, inky scent of the printing. He placed a hand on his paper, but it was just that, paper. Unlike the forbidden scroll, it held no latent chakra, no secret knowledge he could absorb. It was a blank, silent wall. Ibiki began. This test has one very important, overriding rule. Naruto tuned him out. Panic, cold and sharp, began to prickle at the edges of his senses. He couldn't read. He would fail before he even had a chance to fight. His dream of becoming Hokage, the respect of the village, it would all crumble to dust in this silent, stuffy room. He could feel the smug, confident chakra of the genin around him who were already scribbling away. Listen. The memory of Jiraiya's voice echoed in his mind, a deep and resonant counterpoint to his rising panic. They had only had a few weeks of preliminary training before the Sannin had departed on another research trip, but his lessons had been profound. The world is screaming information at you every second of every day, kid, Jiraiya had told him, sitting cross-legged in a silent training field. Your problem is you're only listening to the shouts, the explosions, the killing intent. A true sage hears the whispers. The rustle of a leaf, the crawl of an ant, the thought behind a liar's eyes. Stop trying to sense, and just listen. Naruto took a deep, shuddering breath, the air tasting of chalk dust and stale fear. He closed his eyes, a purely mental act of shutting out the world to better perceive it. He let Ibiki's intimidating presence fade. He let the anxious hum of the room recede. He focused. He started with sound. He filtered out the shuffling feet and nervous coughs. He honed in on the delicate, rhythmic scratching of pencils on paper. He could hear the difference between a confident, fluid stroke and a hesitant, stuttering one. He could hear the faint tap-tap-tap of a pencil against the desk as someone struggled with a question. He began to build a mental map of the room, not of people, but of confidence levels. The corner with the Sand siblings was a hub of swift, sure scratching. The area with the Konoha rookies was a mixed bag of certainty and doubt. It wasn't enough. He needed more than just the sound. He expanded his senses further, reaching out with the fine, delicate tendrils of his own chakra, not to touch, but to feel the ambient energy of the room. He remembered Jiraiya's lesson on chakra as an extension of will and emotion. He felt it. A tiny, almost imperceptible pulse of wind-natured chakra from behind him. Temari, using a jutsu to reflect the answers off a hidden mirror. He felt a minuscule, focused thread of chakra connect Kiba to the lump of warmth that was Akamaru hiding in his jacket. The dog was giving him the answers. He sensed a nearly invisible stream of chakra extending from Shino's desk, carrying one of his Kikaichu bugs to spy on another paper. Most audaciously, he felt a powerful, disciplined wave of energy surge from Ino's body as she used her mind transfer jutsu, her own chakra signature vanishing for a few seconds as it inhabited Sakura's. A beacon of perfect scores. It was a symphony of deception. Each cheating method was a unique instrument with its own telltale vibration in the room's energy field. Naruto became the conductor. He didn't copy one person, he cross-referenced. He felt the answer Ino took from Sakura, confirmed it with the information Shino's bug was gathering, and cross-referenced it again with the confidence he heard in the Sand siblings' pencil strokes. He wasn't cheating by their rules. He was using his unique shinobi skill, the very essence of what Jiraiya was teaching him, to gather intelligence. He filled in his answer sheet, his own pencil strokes becoming as confident as any in the room. Time ticked by. All right, pencils down, Ibiki roared. Now for the 10th and final question. The tension in the room skyrocketed. Naruto could feel the chakra of everyone present tighten, coiling with suspense. For this final question, Ibiki said, a cruel smile in his voice that Naruto could feel in the sadistic curl of his chakra, you will be given a choice. You can choose not to answer it, in which case you and your entire team will fail immediately. Or you can choose to answer it. If you answer and get it wrong, you will be barred from ever taking the Chunin exams again. A wave of pure terror washed through the room. It was a physical force, a tidal wave of panic chakra that threatened to drown him. He felt the doubt of his classmates, the way their resolve crumbled. He could feel Kiba's bravado turning to nervous sweat, Hinata's quiet anxiety becoming a frantic, silent scream. People began to quit, their hands raised in surrender. With each person who left, a small light of chakra was extinguished from the room, making the oppressive fear feel even heavier. He felt Sakura's hand tremble next to him. He felt Sasuke's icy calm waver for the first time, a hairline crack in the glacier. He, Naruto Uzumaki, the dead last, the one who dreamed of being Hokage, to be barred forever? The thought was a physical pain, a blade of ice in his gut. But to quit now? To fail his team because he was afraid? He slammed his hand down on the desk. The sound echoed in the tense silence. Don't underestimate me. I don't quit and I don't run, he yelled, his voice a defiant roar against the tide of fear. You can act tough all you want, you scary-faced bastard, but you're not scaring me off. I'll take the question. And even if I'm a genin for life, I'll become Hokage through sheer guts if I have to. Believe it. His voice, filled with an unshakable conviction, acted as a catalyst. He felt a change in the room. The wavering chakra of his friends began to solidify. His outburst had been a lighthouse in their storm of doubt. He felt Sakura's resolve harden, Sasuke's cracked seal over, Shikamaru's lazy energy focus with reluctant admiration. Ibiki watched him, and for the first time, Naruto felt the scarred man's chakra shift. The intimidating pressure lessened, replaced by a flicker of something that felt like approval. A fine decision, Ibiki said. For those of you who remained, you've passed the first test. Confusion rippled through the room. The 10th question had been a test not of knowledge, but of will. As the relief washed over them, Naruto allowed himself a wide grin. He hadn't just passed. He had understood the test on a level deeper than the words. He had felt its true purpose. Suddenly, the windows shattered inwards. A woman appeared in a swirl of leaves and motion, unfurling a banner behind her. Her entrance was an explosion of chaotic energy. All right, you maggots. Listen up, she declared, her voice a mix of playful sadism and genuine excitement. I'm Anko Mitarashi, your proctor for the second exam. And this is where the fun really begins. Naruto focused on her chakra. It was wild and untamed, like a summer thunderstorm, full of crackling lightning and unpredictable winds. But underneath the chaos, he felt something else, a faint, cold, and familiar stain. It was a dormant, barely there trace of the same malevolent energy he had felt from. He couldn't place it, but the chilling resonance made him uneasy. It was a shadow hiding behind her vibrant light. They stood before a massive, fenced-off expanse of wilderness, Training Ground 44, better known as the Forest of Death. The name was Apartment. The moment they stepped through the gates, Naruto felt the difference. This wasn't the gentle, welcoming forest he trained in with Jiraiya. This place was ancient, predatory. The natural energy here was thick, heavy, and primal. The trees were titans, their life force immense and slow, like slumbering giants. The air itself felt charged, humming with the life and death struggles of the creatures within. The whole forest seemed to hold its breath, watching them. To Sakura and Sasuke, it was a terrifying, dark, and dangerous maze. To Naruto, it was the most alive place he had ever been. It was the forest that breathes. The rules are simple, Anko explained, a wicked grin on her face. You each get a scroll, either heaven or earth. You have 5 days to make it to the tower in the center with both scrolls. And, her voice dropped, try not to get eaten. They were given an earth scroll and shoved through gate 12. The moment the lock clicked shut behind them, the atmosphere changed. They were no longer candidates, they were prey. Sasuke immediately drew a kunai, his Sharingan blazing to life as he scanned the canopy. Sakura pressed close to him, her senses on high alert. Naruto, however, stood perfectly still, his head tilted. He took a deep, slow breath, tasting the air. It smelled of damp soil, rotting wood, and something metallic. Blood. He cast out his senses, not looking for enemies, but simply listening to the forest's rhythm. He felt the slow, powerful pulse of the ancient trees. He felt the frantic, high-frequency hum of insect colonies. He felt the slithering, cold-blooded energy of snakes coiled in the undergrowth. He felt the flow of water in a stream a quarter-mile to their east. He was building a map, a living, breathing, three-dimensional tapestry of the world around them. Naruto, which way? Sasuke's voice was tense, cutting through his concentration. He had already accepted Naruto's role. Naruto didn't answer immediately. He was focused on a disturbance. A large, fast-moving life form was approaching from the north. It was big, reptilian, and it radiated a hungry, mindless intent. Get down! Naruto yelled, shoving Sakura and Sasuke to the ground a second before a colossal snake, easily 60 feet long, crashed through the trees where they had been standing, its scales the size of shields. The battle was swift. Sasuke's fire jutsu scorched its hide, and together they managed to drive it off. They were all shaken, but alive. Okay, Sasuke panted, looking at Naruto with a new level of seriousness. No more questions. You lead. We follow. And so they began their journey. Naruto was their navigator, their early warning system, their guide. He moved with a confidence that unnerved his teammates. He would lead them on winding, seemingly random paths, only to reveal later that he had guided them around a pitfall trap he'd sensed as a hollow space in the earth, or a patch of ground infested with giant, venomous leeches whose collective chakra felt like a patch of buzzing static. He found them fresh water by following the pull of the natural energy toward the stream, and identified edible berries by their vibrant, clean life force, distinguishing them from the poisonous ones that had a dull, sickly feel. He was in his element. For the first time, his blindness was not a handicap. It was a supreme advantage. In this dark, treacherous forest where sight could be easily deceived, his senses were absolute. They were making incredible time. By the end of the first day, they were already nearing the halfway point to the tower. They decided to make camp for the night, setting up a defensive perimeter. As Sasuke and Sakura took the first watch, Naruto sat and meditated, syncing his own chakra with the breathing of the forest. And then he felt it. It started as a subtle change. The symphony of the forest went quiet. The chirping of the crickets ceased. The rustling of small animals in the undergrowth stopped. The entire, vibrant ecosystem held its breath in unison. A profound, unnatural silence descended, a silence so deep it was louder than any scream. A cold wind, smelling of snakes and old graves, slithered through their camp. It was a wind that felt fundamentally wrong. Sasuke. Sakura. Naruto whispered, his voice trembling. Something is coming. He felt it before it arrived. It was a presence so vast, so overwhelmingly powerful, it was like the moon had fallen out of the sky and landed in the forest next to them. It wasn't just a strong chakra signature. It was a geological event. It was a mountain of pure, ancient, and undiluted malevolence. The natural energy of the forest didn't just bend around it. It recoiled, it withered, it died in its presence. This was a chakra that had lived for centuries, that had consumed countless lives, that was so twisted and corrupt it no longer felt human. It felt like an abyss that had gained sentience. The sensory assault was catastrophic. Naruto's world, the beautiful, living tapestry he perceived, was instantly bleached of all color and texture. The vibrant greens of the trees, the cool blues of the water, the warm reds of animal life, all were washed out, replaced by a single, monolithic shade of black. The pressure in his head was immense, a physical weight that threatened to crush his skull. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't think. This was not the fear of a monster you could fight. This was the primal, existential terror of a void that was going to swallow you whole. He heard a hissing sound, a voice that was both masculine and feminine, ancient and mocking. Well, what do we have here? He felt the presence move. It wasn't a walk or a run. It was a smooth, serpentine glide that defied physics. It stopped before Sasuke. You have such good eyes, Sasuke-kun, the voice hissed. Naruto was paralyzed, pinned in place by the sheer gravitational pull of this being's chakra. He could hear Sasuke fighting, the flash of fire jutsu, the clang of steel. But it was like a child throwing pebbles at a mountain. Then, the monstrous presence, Orochimaru, focused its attention on Naruto. And you're the most interesting of all. The little blind fox. You're not looking at me with your eyes, are you? You're feeling me. You can feel the sheer magnificence of my being. Naruto choked, his own chakra flickering like a candle in a hurricane. He tried to push back, to scream, but all he could feel was the suffocating, cold weight of Orochimaru's ancient hatred. I need a new vessel soon, Orochimaru mused, its attention returning to Sasuke. And you, with those beautiful eyes, will do nicely. I will give you a little gift. A taste of the power I can offer. Naruto's sensory world narrowed to a single, horrifying point. He felt Orochimaru's vile chakra concentrate, twisting itself into two sharp, ethereal points, fangs made of pure malice and corrupting energy. He felt them move with terrifying speed. He couldn't see the bite, but he felt something far worse. He felt the moment those fangs pierced Sasuke's chakra network. It was a violation of the most profound kind. It was not a physical wound, but a spiritual one. He felt the vile, foreign energy being injected directly into the core of his friend's being. It was a thick, black poison, a living cancer that immediately began to spread, wrapping its tendrils around Sasuke's own chakra, twisting it, corrupting it, rewriting it. He felt Sasuke's chakra scream, a silent, agonizing shriek of pure energy as his very soul was violated. The soundless scream ripped through the psychic connection their teams shared, and Naruto felt an echo of that agony in his own chest. The sight, the feeling, of his friend being so utterly defiled broke something in Naruto. The terror was replaced by a surge of primal, protective fury. Deep within him, the beast roared in response. The cold, suffocating pressure of Orochimaru's chakra was met by a volcanic eruption of hot, crimson rage. The Nine Tails, a sliver of its power, red and burning, flooded his system. It didn't fix his overwhelmed senses, but it gave him an anchor in the storm of terror. He lashed out, not with a plan, but with pure instinct. A claw of red chakra shot from his hand, gouging a deep furrow in the earth where Orochimaru stood. He felt a flicker of surprise from the Sannin. Oh? The seal is weakening. How delightful. And then, as quickly as it had arrived, the suffocating presence was gone. The forest slowly, tentatively, began to breathe again. Naruto collapsed, gasping, the red chakra receding. He was left shaking, cold, and utterly terrified. He scrambled over to where he felt Sasuke's corrupted energy signature lying on the ground. Sasuke was unconscious, his body burning with the fever Naruto could feel in his chakra. The curse mark was a nexus of pure evil, a pulsating tumor on his friend's soul. Sakura was weeping, her terror a sharp, painful sound. They had survived. But the cost had been immense. Naruto had experienced a fear that struck at the very core of his being, a fear that turned his greatest strength into his most profound vulnerability. The world of sensation, his world, had been violated. And he would never forget the feeling of that ancient, hungry darkness. Somehow, they made it to the tower. They had acquired a heaven scroll from the Sound Ninja in a brief, confusing encounter that Naruto barely registered, his senses still recovering from the overload. They stumbled through the doors, a broken, traumatized unit. The preliminary rounds were announced. One by one, genin were called to fight in the arena below. Naruto stood on the balcony, leaning against the rail, trying to center himself. He could feel Sasuke's corrupted chakra beside him, a constant, painful reminder of what had happened. His name was called. He couldn't see the giant screen, the way the names clicked and whirred into place. He felt Kakashi's hand on his shoulder. Naruto, his sensei said, his voice unusually serious. Your opponent. Naruto tilted his head, listening to the murmurs of the crowd, feeling the shift in the arena's energy as all eyes turned to him, and to a boy on the far side of the balcony. He focused on his opponent's chakra. It was calm, controlled, and radiated an unnerving, absolute certainty. It was the chakra of someone who believed they could see everything, who believed the world held no secrets from them. Kakashi's voice confirmed it. Your opponent is Neji Hyuga. Naruto took a deep breath. The all-seeing eye of the Byakugan versus the boy who saw nothing at all. He felt a grim smile touch his lips. The forest had shown him his greatest vulnerability. Now, the arena would give him a chance to prove his greatest strength. The month between the preliminary and final rounds was a blur of frantic, disjointed training. Kakashi, occupied with Sasuke and the growing darkness of his curse mark, had pawned Naruto off on a strange, white-haired jonin named Ebisu. The training was a disaster. Ebisu's methods were based entirely on visual cues and textbook principles that were utterly alien to Naruto. Trying to teach Naruto to walk on water by having him visualize his feet sticking to the surface was like trying to teach a fish to climb a tree. It was during one of these frustrating sessions that Naruto felt the familiar, blazing sun of Jiraiya's chakra return. The Sannin appeared with his usual boisterous laugh, dispatched Ebisu with a single, casual summoning, and took over Naruto's training with a gravity that was rare for him. He didn't teach Naruto a new, flashy jutsu. Instead, they spent weeks in the quietest, most remote training grounds, doing one thing and one thing only, sitting still. You felt it in the forest, didn't you? Jiraiya had asked, his voice serious. That connection to everything? That was a taste, a whisper. But you were just a passive receiver. To become a sage, you have to be an active participant. You have to open the gates of your soul and invite the world in. And to do that, you have to learn to be perfectly, absolutely still. Still in body, still in mind, still in spirit. For Naruto, a boy whose entire existence was a whirlwind of motion and sound, stillness was the ultimate torture. But he tried. He sat for hours, listening to the world, trying to feel that deeper connection again. He could brush against it, a faint hum just beyond his perception, but the explosive clarity he'd experienced in the forest eluded him. He was touching the surface of an ocean, unable to break through and explore its depths. He hadn't mastered it. Not even close. Now, standing in the center of the Chunin exams arena, the memory of that failure was a cold knot in his stomach. The stadium was a roaring ocean of life. He couldn't see the thousands of spectators, but he could feel them. Their collective chakra was a massive, swirling entity, a blend of anticipation, bloodlust, and idle curiosity. The sheer volume of sound was immense, a wall of cheers, murmurs, and shouts that pressed in on him. The sun was a hot, heavy weight on his shoulders, and the ground beneath his feet, packed earth baked hard by the heat, vibrated with the energy of the crowd. Across from him stood Niji Hyuga. Naruto focused his senses on his opponent, and the chaotic noise of the stadium faded to a background hum. Niji's chakra was unlike anything he had ever felt before. It wasn't wild and blazing like Jiraiya's, or cold and sharp like Sasuke's. It was a flawless crystal. It was perfectly ordered, humming with a serene, unshakable confidence. There were no fluctuations, no wasted energy, no flicker of doubt or fear. It was the chakra of a person who believed, with every fiber of their being, in their own absolute superiority. It was cold, clear, and absolute. The loser from the preliminaries, Niji's voice cut through the air, as precise and emotionless as his chakra. I'm surprised you even bothered to show up. Your fate was sealed the moment you were chosen to fight me. You should forfeit now. The proctor, Genma, spoke, his voice lazy but firm. Are both competitors ready? Begin. Naruto didn't waste a second. He knew a frontal assault was useless. He formed the familiar seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen Narutos exploded into existence, each a perfect duplicate of his own chakra signature. For a normal opponent, it would be a disorienting mess. For Niji, it was an exercise in triviality. Pointless, Niji stated. Naruto felt Niji's chakra flare, concentrating around his eyes. A wave of pressure emanated from him, a tangible expansion of his perception. Byakugan. The clones charged. Naruto, the original, hung back, trying to get a feel for Niji's movements. He couldn't see the attacks, but he could feel them with agonizing clarity. Niji moved like a phantom, a blur of motion even to Naruto's enhanced hearing. He didn't waste a single movement. Naruto felt the tiny, precise bursts of chakra as Niji struck each clone. It wasn't a powerful, explosive impact. It was a series of sharp, painful pops in his sensory field as the chakra coils of his clones were instantly and irrevocably severed. One by one, they vanished in puffs of smoke, their connection to him snipped like a thread. In under 5 seconds, all 12 were gone. Niji stood in the exact same spot, not even breathing heavily. Your bag of tricks is empty. As I said, it is pointless. Your destiny is to lose to me here. Destiny? Fate? Stop spouting that nonsense! Naruto yelled, his frustration mounting. I make my own destiny, he charged, this time for real. He feinted left, listening for the shift of Niji's feet on the dirt, the rustle of his clothes. He heard it, a subtle slide of a sandal, and spun, aiming a kick where he knew Niji's head would be. His foot met empty air. He felt a sudden, cold presence behind him. You are within my field of divination, Niji's voice was a whisper in his ear. 8 trigrams? Before Naruto could react, he felt it. A touch, impossibly fast, on his shoulder. It wasn't a punch. It was a precise, focused injection of energy. He felt Niji's chakra, condensed to a needle-sharp point at his fingertip, pierce his own chakra network. A cold, numbing sensation spread through his left arm as the Tenketsu point was sealed. The flow of his own energy, a sensation as natural to him as breathing, was simply cut off. His arm went limp, not from injury, but from a profound internal disconnection. He stumbled back, clutching his useless arm. The crowd murmured. He could feel their confusion, their pity. He could feel Kakashi's chakra on the balcony flare with concern. The Hyuga clan's gentle fist is the most powerful taijutsu style in all of Konoha, Niji explained, his voice a calm, detached lecture. It does not damage the body from the outside, but from the inside, attacking the chakra circulatory system directly. A single, precise strike can be fatal. I can see every one of your 361 chakra points. They are your cage, Naruto Uzumaki, and I hold the key, Rage warred with a rising tide of fear. Niji wasn't just stronger, he was operating on a different plane of existence. He could see the very blueprint of Naruto's power, and was dismantling it, piece by piece. Naruto grit his teeth and charged again, this time trying to be unpredictable, a whirlwind of motion. But it was no use. Niji was always a step ahead. He was a perfect wall of defense, his movements economical and flawless. Each time Naruto got close, he was met with another cold, precise jab. A strike to his leg, and it buckled beneath him. A touch to his chest, and his breath hitched, the chakra in his lungs stuttering. With each blow, another circuit was cut, another part of his internal world went dark. He was being hollowed out from the inside, his connection to his own power severed link by painful link. And with each strike, Niji's sermon continued. A person's destiny is a set course, determined at birth. No one can change it. You were born blind, a vessel for a demon, fated to be an outcast. I was born into a branch house of the Hyuga, fated to protect the main family for the rest of my life, branded with a seal that ensures my obedience. We are both trapped in the inescapable prison of our fate. Naruto was on his knees, panting, his body a patchwork of numb, disconnected limbs. His chakra flow was a sputtering, intermittent trickle. He could barely muster the energy to stay upright. Look at you, Niji said, his voice laced with a cold, dispassionate pity that was worse than any hatred. Struggling so desperately against the current. It's admirable, in a pathetic sort of way, but the river only flows in one direction. My eyes, the Byakugan, do not see what might be. They see what is. And what I see is your inevitable defeat. Niji walked slowly towards him, his footsteps steady and final. He raised his hands, settling into a new, more dangerous stance. It's over. I hold no grudge against you. I am simply fulfilling my destiny by ending yours. He began to move, his form a blur of speed. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. The attack was a devastating storm. Naruto couldn't even track the individual movements. It was a flurry, a torrent of sensations. 2 palms. 2 cold stabs of energy, 1 in each shoulder. 4 palms. 4 more, cutting off the major pathways in his torso. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. With each volley, his world grew darker, quieter. The flow of his chakra, the warm river of life that had always coursed through him, was being systematically dammed, turned into a stagnant, dead pool. He felt his connection to his own power flicker and die. 64 palms. The final series of strikes hit him like a physical shockwave. He was thrown backwards, crashing into the dirt. A cloud of dust rose around him, a temporary shroud. He lay there, every muscle screaming, every nerve ending cold and numb. He tried to summon his chakra, to force it through the blockages. Nothing. It was like trying to push water through solid rock. He was utterly, completely sealed. He can no longer mold any chakra, Niji declared to the silent stadium. It is finished. A failure will always be a failure. He cannot change who he is, just as he cannot change the fact that he was born without sight. Some things, Proctor, are simply decided from the start. The Proctor, Genma, began the countdown. 5. 6. Naruto lay in the dirt, the world a muted gray. The roar of the crowd was a distant, meaningless hum. The warmth of the sun felt like a mockery. He was back in that lonely apartment, back on that swing, the universe reinforcing its one constant lesson: you are not good enough. You are a failure. You are alone. No, not alone. Deep within him, in the darkest pit of his being, the other presence stirred. The beast. The boundless, infinite well of rage and power. He reached for it, desperately clawing for that familiar, burning anger. "Give me your power!" he screamed in his mind. A low, guttural rumble answered him, a vibration that shook his very soul. "And how do you propose I do that, boy?" The Kyuubi's voice echoed, dripping with ancient malice. "The Hyuga whelp has closed every door. My chakra has no path to escape its cage. Your own body has become my prison as much as yours. You are on your own." The last flicker of hope died. Not even the demon could save him. He was truly, utterly defeated. The darkness he had lived in his entire life seemed to press in, becoming absolute, a suffocating blanket of despair. And in that profound, absolute stillness he heard it. It wasn't a sound. It was a memory. The memory of Jiraiya's voice. "Still in body, still in mind, still in spirit. Stop trying to force the world to listen to you, kid. Let it speak." He stopped fighting. He stopped trying to force his chakra through the blockades. He stopped reaching for the Kyuubi. He stopped struggling against his fate. He let go. He simply existed. Lying on the cool, packed earth, he let his consciousness drift, unmoored from his broken body. And the world began to speak. It started as a whisper. A sensation so subtle he almost missed it. He felt the life force of a single, resilient blade of grass growing near his head. It was a tiny, vibrant thread of green energy, drinking in the sun, pulsing with a quiet, determined life. It wasn't his chakra, or Niji's, or the Kyuubi's. It was the world's. It was natural energy. He focused on that single thread. And as he did, his perception began to expand, as if a dam had burst in his soul. He felt the entire grassy field of the arena, not as individual blades, but as a single, living carpet of green. He felt the intricate network of roots beneath the surface, a complex, subterranean web of life drawing nutrients from the soil. He felt the slow, patient, ancient life force of the stadium's stone walls. His senses exploded outward with breathtaking speed. He could feel the anxious, rapid-fire heartbeat of Sakura on the balcony, a frantic drum of worry. He could feel Kakashi's steady, rhythmic pulse, laced with a current of stunned disbelief. He could feel the thousands of individual heartbeats in the crowd, a vast, chaotic symphony of life. He felt the flutter of a sparrow's wings as it soared high above the stadium, each beat a soft push against the river of the wind. This wasn't his normal sensory world, a world of echoes and chakra signatures. This was something infinitely more profound. He wasn't just sensing the world, he was part of it. He was connected to the life force of everything, from the smallest insect to the largest human. It was a dizzying, overwhelming, and breathtakingly beautiful experience. And in that symphony, Niji was the loudest instrument. Naruto didn't just feel Niji's chakra anymore. He could feel the natural energy flowing around and through him. He could perceive Niji's entire chakra network, not as a visual schematic, but as a river system of flowing energy, now glowing with a brilliant blue in his mind's eye. He could feel the subtle electrical impulses in Niji's nerves, the tensing of his muscle fibers before he moved, the shift in his body weight, the very thoughts of his next attack beginning to form as disturbances in his bioelectric field. He could see his fate not as a set path, but as 1,000 branching possibilities, and he could feel which one Niji was about to choose. A strange, calm power filled him. It was the power of the earth, the sun, the wind. It seeped into him not through his block tenketsu, but through his very skin, his every pore an open door to the world's energy. A thin, orange pigmentation, like sacred markings, appeared around his eyes, a physical sign of the sage's power he was now wielding. Naruto pushed himself to his feet. A gasp went through the stadium. He felt the shock from the crowd, a palpable wave of disbelief. He felt Niji's flawless crystal of a chakra signature crack, a tiny fissure of confusion and doubt appearing for the first time. "How?" Niji whispered, his composure finally breaking. "I sealed every one of your chakra points. You shouldn't be able to even move." Naruto opened his mouth, and his voice was different. It was calm, steady, and resonant with a quiet power that seemed to echo with the hum of the world itself. "You were right about one thing, Niji. Your eyes see what's there. My closed chakra points. My exhausted body. My fated defeat." He took a step forward, the world moving with him, a perfect, harmonious dance. But you're wrong about everything else, Naruto continued, his voice growing stronger. Your eyes only see the truth of what is. They're blind to the truth of what could be. He raised a hand, not to a fighting stance, but as if feeling the air. I can't see you, Niji. But right now, I can feel the beat of your heart. I can feel the doubt growing in your soul. I can feel the path you're going to take before you even take it. You see a cage of fate. I feel a world of endless connection. Niji's shock hardened into anger. The fissure in his confidence sealed over with the concrete of his ideology. Impossible! Tricks! I will show you the absolute nature of destiny, he charged, faster than before, his hands a blur. 8 trigrams, palm rotation. He began to spin, creating a vortex of pure chakra, an absolute defense that repelled all attacks. It was his ultimate technique, but Naruto didn't attack. As the spinning dome of destructive energy bore down on him, he simply took a small step to his left. He tilted his head slightly. He moved not with speed, but with a preternatural grace, flowing around the attack like water around a stone. He wasn't dodging the jutsu. He was moving in harmony with the tiny, infinitesimal blind spot in its rotation that his new senses had perceived. Niji's attack spun past him, hitting nothing but air. He stumbled to a halt, his back to Naruto, his chakra signature flaring with disbelief. In that moment of vulnerability, Naruto acted. He channeled the natural energy coursing through him into his fist. It wasn't his chakra, but the world's. He didn't need his tenketsu. He drew his power from the very ground he stood on. He disappeared, not with speed, but by sinking. He flowed into the earth, merging his presence with it, becoming another root in the subterranean network. Niji spun around, his Byakugan scanning wildly, but all he could see was an empty arena. And then, directly beneath him, the earth erupted. Naruto shot upwards, a geyser of earth and will, his fist connecting with Niji's jaw in a thunderous uppercut. It was more than a punch. It was a philosophical statement delivered with the force of a tectonic plate. It was the unpredictable potential of the world striking back against the rigid certainty of fate. Naruto felt everything in that single, decisive moment. He felt the impact jar every bone in Niji's body. He felt the shockwave travel up his spine. He felt the Hyuga's perfectly ordered chakra shatter into chaos. He felt the flicker of surprise, the flash of pain, and then, the gentle, quiet dimming of his consciousness as Niji was launched into the air and crashed to the ground, unconscious. Silence. The roaring ocean of the stadium had become a dead calm sea. Then, the imperfect sage mode, a power his untrained body could not sustain, faded. The symphony of the world snapped back into a single, muted note. The vibrant tapestry of life became his familiar world of sound and echoes once more. The loss was a physical ache, a longing for the profound beauty he had just experienced. He swayed on his feet, the exhaustion hitting him like a tidal wave, and collapsed to one knee. The silence was broken by a single person clapping. Then another. And then the entire stadium erupted. The sound was a physical force, a tidal wave of approval and awe that washed over him. He couldn't see the standing ovation, but he could feel the warmth of thousands of chakra signatures, all focused on him, not with pity or fear, but with genuine, unadulterated respect. It was the feeling he had chased his entire life. On the balcony, Kakashi looked on, his single visible eye wide with an astonishment that bordered on fear. Sakura was weeping with joy. Sasuke stared down at the arena, his Sharingan spinning, trying and failing to comprehend what he had just witnessed. His rival, the loser, the dead last, had just tapped into a power that seemed to transcend ninjutsu itself. And high in the stands, hidden amongst the crowd, Jiraiya watched his student. The pervy, foolish grin was gone, replaced by an expression of grim, profound seriousness. He had seen the orange pigmentation around Naruto's eyes. He had felt the surge of natural energy, raw and untamed. The boy wasn't ready. He had stumbled into the dragon's lair by accident, and by some miracle, had emerged unscathed. But such miracles were rare. If Naruto was to wield that power without it destroying him, without turning to stone, he needed true, formal training. Jiraiya stood up, the celebration of the crowd just noise in his ears. The Chunin exams, Konoha, all of it faded into the background. A new, far more important mission had just become crystal clear. It's time, he murmured to the wind, his gaze locked on the small, orange figure in the center of the arena. It's time to go to Mount Myaboku.